everyone, I'm Shen Jingwen. Zhao Yiyu and I are from Group 5. We'd like to discuss a system emergency situation, scabies. The keywords on this issue are the following form: Aboriginal children, East Animal skin infections, and scabies. Many Aboriginal children living in remote communities in East Animal in the Northern Territory of Australia have the highest rate of scabies in the world. And almost 70% of Aboriginal children are infected with scabies by the age of 1 year. But there is not much awareness of this problem, especially in remote communities in East Animal. So it is important to understand and choose locally adapted programs to help reduce the risk of scabies.
Building around the background foundation of the study around 5 basic dimensions. The problem occurs in remote Aboriginal areas of Australia, and it is most common in the Northern Territory, the Pilbara region, and the Kimberley region of Western Australia. The problem focuses on the disease scabies, which is a disease that is transmitted through person-to-person contact. Everyone can get scabies, especially people living in crowded housing and children living in populated areas such as schools. Developing scabies causes the skin to become incredibly itchy and easily inflamed and infected or scarred. It can also cause physical and psychological after effects. The main causes of scabies are poor environmental climate and housing conditions, as well as poor hygiene. Scabies is a skin condition caused by a microscopic mite called Psychoptes scabii. The mites burrow under the skin and the females lay eggs. The itch results from the inflammatory response to mate excrete and other components. Often occurs on wrists and ankles, buttocks, armpits, and so on. It's a common problem in many remote Aboriginal communities within the Northern Territory, where in some areas up to 50% of children and 25% of adults are affected. In addition, scabies can cause many complications, and prolonged scratching can lead to streptococcal and staphylococcal infections, which can increase the risk of kidney failure and heart disease, and can be very life-threatening for small children and the elderly. Scabies is also highly contagious and is a very urgent problem to be solved.
The conventional treatment so far is divided into 4 main steps: diagnosis, medication, life and home treatment, and regular checkups. The first step is for the patient to self-diagnose whether the itching is persistent for a week or more, and whether the itch area is bleeding and crusted. In the hospital usually involves taking a sample of each part of the skin to look for mites and eggs. In the second step, the healthcare provider will apply a special cream to the patient for 8 to 14 hours, during which time family members in contact with the patient will be required to apply the cream, regardless of whether or not they have scabies. The third step of the home treatment is to continue to take the cream hourly, as well as applying it, while cleaning and disinfecting all items in the home, especially those that have been used by the patient. Since scabies is not easy to eradicate, the fourth step involves observing and documenting the symptoms during the course of the disease, and testing samples regularly. In the course of the study, we found that the number of Aboriginal children suffering from scabies in remote communities in the Pilbara and Kimberley regions of Western Australia and in East Animal Land in the Northern Territory was not encouraging. These communities are made up of 50 to 1,000 people and are dispersed. The prevalence of scabies is 5% in Pilbara, 15% in the Kimberley, and 13% in Animal Land.
There are several major Yulu communities in Eastern Arnhem Land. East Arnhem has a savanna climate with little seasonal variation in temperature and plenty of rainfall. Maximum temperatures remain between 22 and 30 degrees, Well, minimum temperatures are usually between 14 and 25 degrees, with an average of around 21 to 22 degrees, which is the optimum temperature and humidity for the scabies meat to thrive. Scabies meat can survive up to 3 days outside the human body in an environment with the right temperature and humidity. Crowded rooms and high population density are also conditions that promote the growth of scabies meat. So, seasonal conditions in East Arnhem are also a reason for the high incidence of scabies, and environmental aspects need to be taken into account when designing a solution to the problem.
Housing conditions are a pressing issue in this remote area. During our research, we found a remote community in Arnhem called Ericla, where a lady with disability called Julie shares a room with 10 members of her family, and her sister Wendy lives next door with 60 members of her family under the same roof, in an overcrowded and unhygienic house. In a report by the Australian Statistics, it was noted that 85% of Aboriginal people in the Northern Territory live in overcrowded housing. There is also a large number of homeless people who live in riverside or forest camps without permanent shelter, sanitation, or even access to clean water. Scabies and housing conditions are closely linked. Scabies is highly transmissible because people live in houses that look like this. And people with scabies get scabies from everyone in the house because of the crusting that fall from their skin onto the floor. And even though these people are treated, as soon as they return to such an environment, they will be reinfected with scabies within a week.
The Aboriginal people of East Arnhem Land have a rich artistic culture and are home to one of Australia's richest and most diverse Aboriginal art centres and galleries, with a passion for local art and a desire to promote it. The Yellow culture of East Arnhem Land is also one of the oldest surviving cultures on Earth, dating back more than 60,000 years, and the Aboriginal people there call themselves Yulu. And today they are blending their Western lifestyle with their traditional culture. Although the indigenous people have adapted to this combination of modern and traditional culture, they still have certain political demands. For example, the Yulu are still accustomed to the ancient legal system called Median, which they believe embodies all the rights and responsibilities of the local citizenry, and they very much want to be able to self-govern under the Median law, and which is being practiced in some parts of the country. In February 2011, a doctor mentioned at the Aboriginal Community Law and Justice Conference in Darwin, Northern Territory, that Aboriginal people believe that adherence to Median creates a state of balance, peace, and true justice, and that Median law is the standard and the law by which all of them live, and therefore the Yulu are ruled by Median law, not by mine. Aboriginal people have a strong desire for cultural identity and for their culture to be spread and promoted rather than lost, such as local art. They also want to maintain their traditional laws and find a way of life that suits them. I will explain the attitudes towards scabies from the perspectives of the patients themselves, the society, and the government. First of all, the patients themselves will feel both physical and psychological discomfort. Scabies will make them feel itchy and painful, and they will also be humiliated and ostracized by their classmates because of the ulcers on their skin, and they will not be able to pay attention at school. And society has limited knowledge of this disease, doesn't know how prevalent it is in children, also doesn't realize how dangerous it is, and doesn't understand that the after effects of scabies can be life-threatening. Some local authorities are not addressing the disease, and building community swimming pools is one way to alleviate the problem. But information shows that some of the funds used by the government to invest in the constructions of swimming pools or other health care facilities are not known and have not been released. A shaky search for information revealed that Tracy McRae and others had done relevant interviews with Aboriginal people back in 2023. And through data collection activities as well as sampling methods, the following points were obtained. The following is part of the conversation taken from the interview. It can be seen that local residents have a very lack of understanding of scabies and think it is an insignificant disease.
There are many precedents and approaches for scabies outbreaks. For example, this is a service designed for treating families with scabies. They have designed a service process that goes from a home visit to assess and rule out the type of scabies, to planning with the family for activities such as the home care or mini scan days, to a final home visit a week later to investigate. This service process has had some success in the Northern Territory, and their complete and well thought out service idea has provided a good scabies treatment program for some remote communities. But again, there are some problems. For example, this is a high turnover and shortage of service staff, which has resulted in some patients with recurrent scabies losing their treatment records. For example, it is difficult to completely provide isolate spaces for scabies patients, as many family members need to sleep in the same room or even the same bed. Finally, there is the issue of privacy for scabies families, many of whom do not want to be known by members of the community. While some areas use community swimming pools to enhance the health of community members, studies have found that community swimming pools also have some positive effects on skin infections in remote areas. In the data, it was shown that community swimming pools are very effective in cleaning the skin, which includes in reducing some skin inflammation and skin infections as well as improving the health of the skin. It also flushes out middle ear bacteria and does so by reducing ear infection as well as technique performations, among other things. Community swimming pools have been shown to improve overall hygiene and prevent community members from swimming in unhygienic rivers and lakes, which can prevent some rural infections. However, there are potential hygiene problems, such as water that cannot be replaced by a timely manner, and undesirable substances carried by swimmers that can complicate the swimming pool water.
There's a product designed for scabies called Scope, which is dedicated to addressing children's fear of treatments such as injections and medications when treating scabies, so that children don't resist treatment. The product is a head-mounted wear device, a medical-grade product designed for children and utilizing the advanced antimicrobial technology that meets infection control standards. The combination of animation and music will divert the child's attention, which will reduce rejection of the treatment. However, there are some shortcomings in the product. For example, for Aboriginal people, the cost of VR instruments is very high, and they may consider it a redundant and unnecessary behavior. Thanks for your attention and engagement.